Dude, we got power fists. We got Fisto the robot. We got amazing scenes between House and Coop. Yeah, this episode was amazing. Probably the best the show's been so far. Let's just jump right into it. Power fist, anyone? Dude, it starts off 3 fucking death claws, and then I thought to myself, what is this, Quarry Junction? And then a few scenes later, it's like, oh, that's exactly what this is. It's exactly where they came from. I appreciated that they kind of, followed through on that. It makes sense that they came from somewhere, and I appreciate that they made it somewhere that we know, something that anyone would know if they've tried to go straight to the strip from Good Springs. Dude, Freeside looks really fucking good, especially when you compare it to like the strip and stuff. Like, it just feels way more alive, and it doesn't feel like it's been miniaturized like the strip does. I thought that was just so disappointing. It's downscaled so much. I know a lot of you felt that way too, because I've seen the comments and stuff. But I will say, though, damn, that establishing shot, when it shows the strip, it's like a helicopter shot flying over. It's when the flashbacks start, Cooper's flashbacks. And it just looked so good there. But yeah, just the set itself, that was a big hit. Because like the centerpiece of this season is the strip, is New Vegas. For them to kind of flop so hard on representing the strip, that was pretty disappointing. Show is so good, otherwise they're killing it. But they really fucked up the strip. I really appreciate this congresswoman bit that keeps coming back. It's great, and there's probably a reason we keep seeing her. But I really appreciated Coop's kind of keep at it, encouragement that he gives her. I don't know why, but for some reason that got me, especially in the times we're living in, these days. As Coop goes into the Lucky 38, he gets called up by the fake House to go see Mr. House. Okay, first of all, this whole conversation between House and Coop is amazing. Second of all, I love this fucking show. And third of all, look, I know people have had their complaints about how House is represented in the show so far, especially like the episode 1 stuff, and rightfully so. But the House in this episode, in this whole scene as it plays out, is spot on to the House from Fallout New Vegas, in my opinion, and it's for a couple reasons. He proves that he's always one step ahead of everybody else. He knows that why Coop's there. He knows he came to kill him, even though he had changed his mind at that point. He's building out his contingency plans for what he predicted is going to happen next. Again, another thing that we would have seen him do in the games and do. He hates Cooper because he sees him as a variable that's like preventing him from having an accurate, coherent, prediction of the future that he can like plan around. And he hates not being in control, and that hurts his ego and causes him to raise his voice and start yelling. All of that is stuff that we hear and see him do in the game. As he's like reacting to the courier, like depending on, what side you choose or what you decide to say at any given moment, like those are all the same reactions that he has. So I really appreciated the accuracy here. I really do think it's like just a spot on representation of him. I'm sure there's still going to be people that disagree, but let me know if you agree or not and why. House alludes to this third party that may be who's actually going to be starting the war. I totally assume this is, going to be the Enclave. There's hints that they throw in there, and he even references the Enclave at one point. But that's who this is going to be. Again, these unknowns totally piss him off. He finds them irksome, as he would say. It would also make sense that it's the Enclave, since he connects that unknown player at the table he keeps referencing to like the Deathclaw appearing in Alaska, or the demon in the snow, as he puts it. And obviously we know that the Enclave is like very heavily associated with the creation of the Deathclaws pre-war. So it makes sense that they would be who sent it out there to test it, against the Chinese. Dude, these flashbacks this season are just incredible. They might be probably, my favorite part of the show this season. There's just like so much juicy lore in there, and like seeing just the world pre-war, and like seeing all these connections between the characters, before everything goes down. I don't know, it just ties everything together in this really good way this season that, it did a fine job last season too, but like I feel like they really stepped that shit up for this season. Then we get my main man, the snake oil salesman. He's back. Sadly, we don't get him for long, though, at least not this version of him. Okay, so before we get his transformation, thanks to Hank, we do see Barbara and Janie's cryopods. Okay, so they could totally be in there. That's absolutely a possibility. That's definitely what the show wants you to think, right? But I feel like they made a point to not actually show their bodies in the cryopods. And usually these things happen on purpose, right? Every little detail is thought out. So if they're not showing them specifically, and maybe you can remind me, because I can't remember, when Bud's buds were getting defrosted in, I think it's 31, could we see them through their cryopods, or were they totally like, fogged over and you couldn't see inside them? Somebody tell me, because I can't remember that one. But yeah, so I think they definitely want us to think that they're in there. The show wants us to think that, but they probably aren't. When they don't show something specific like that, there's a reason for it. And also, it just means that Hank is lying, and Hank's a piece of shit, so that makes sense. As the snake oil salesman gets tested, I love when they pull back the camera, kind of doing it in the same way that they did it last time, that repetition there to kind of set our expectations of how it's going to go. And I was like, no, don't kill him. And of course, it works this time. It was such a good fake out. His head doesn't blow up and blood splatter all against the window there. So yeah, I just thought that was really well done. That was a nice scene there to have fake us out like that. I was especially concerned because he's like one of my favorite characters in the show. So I don't really care too much for Norm's plotline. Honestly, I get a little disappointed every time we would like jump back over to them, but my ears definitely started to perk up as soon as the FEV gets mentioned. Just another hint to all of this that the Enclave is definitely a player here. So that made me wonder too, like I was thinking about who are the buds trying to contact exactly. I think they refer to them as investors, but that's gotta be the Enclave, right? Like who else would it be? We have the FEV being mentioned. They're these mystery investors. We know Vault-Tec and the Enclave have worked together before, so it seems pretty obvious, right, that it has to be the Enclave. I don't know. If you think it's somebody else, let me know, but it seems pretty obvious to me at this point. Also, that doctor that we had in the first season that kind of got this, the whole thing going with the cold fusion, right? That definitely seemed like they were part of the Enclave, and that doctor escaped with the cold fusion and all that stuff. How did the Enclave end up, if House was supposed to end up with the cold fusion chip thing, whatever it is, how did the Enclave end up with it? Why did that deal fall through? We'll find out more as this season goes on, but I'm very interested to see where the Enclave starts to fit into this puzzle here. It's pretty interesting for sure. We get, Coop's kind of inevitable betrayal of Lucy as they started to work together well, and get along better and all that stuff. Still not very surprising that it happened. To me, at least, it seemed like that's where things were probably heading. But damn, it does lead to that awesome Power Fist scene that we've been seeing in the trailers. It didn't really know where it took place or whatever, but it ends up being, Lucy knocking out the ghoul, making him fly through a window, ending up impaled on a stake outside this hotel. Power Fist is one of my favorite weapons in any of the games. In Fallout 76, my build that I stuck with was always bloodied. So I had like the bloodied handmade rifle and then a bloodied Power Fist. And so yeah, anytime I get to see the Power Fist in live action like this, I'm going to be a happy guy. But yeah, it was just sick to see her, cock it and just fire one off at the ghoul. That was pretty awesome. Oh, but dude, as the episode ends and it does that kind of like pulls away from a starting location and shows off an area. This time it starts in the Gamorra, pulls out, and we end up at the top of the Lucky 38, and we see House's cryopod thing that he lives in for the next 200 years. That was sick to see that. I loved that reference. Hopefully that means that we're gonna get to see that in the same way the Courier did in a later episode. I want to see what House looks like in live action. 200-year-old House. I can't wait to see that. So yeah, just cool that they hinted at it here, and I'm hoping. It seems like usually as these things happen in the show, these post-credit scenes, they like hint at whatever's going to happen next week. So I'm hoping that next week we get to see the real House 200 years later. Dude, what the fuck? What a good episode. This was, I think, the best episode of the show so far, which is funny because I said that last week, right? So yeah, I just had so much fun watching this, like digging in. There's so much juicy lore that we got to dig into, and like, I don't know, I'm just really pumped to see where it all goes and see how it all plays out and everything. But yeah, I'm excited about next week. Thanks for watching. I know your time's valuable, so I appreciate you spending it with me. Like and sub if you think I've earned it. If you want to stick around and watch more shit like this. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.